So, there I was, standing at the altar, all dressed up and feeling like I'd just landed on the happiest spot on earth. The garden was blooming with spring flowers, the sun was shining just right, and Sarah looked absolutely breathtaking standing beside me. This was supposed to be the best day of my life, you know. Months of planning boiled down to this perfect moment. But then, out of nowhere, the whole vibe shifted. One minute, I'm ready to say, I do, and the next, it's like someone dropped a penguin in the Sahara Desert totally out of place, and everyone's just staring, trying not to stare. You could literally feel the temperature in the air drop a few degrees, and my heart just started doing backflips for all the wrong reasons. Oh! Because there, sauntering up the aisle with that half smirk that said, I'm about to stir some trouble, was someone definitely not on our invite list. Not even remotely close. And that's when I realized, weddings don't always go as planned. Sometimes they come with surprise guests you never asked for but absolutely can't ignore. At first I froze. I didn't know what to say or do. Sarah's smile faltered, her eyes flicked toward the doorway, and a hush fell over the crowd. You could almost hear the collective, uh-oh, that no one admitted out loud. For those few seconds, everything we thought was sealed and set in stone started to feel shaky, like the ground beneath my polished shoes was starting to crack. I kept thinking, who is this guy? Why now? And why does it feel like his very presence is crumbling everything we built up to this moment? Because, surprise guest or not, this wasn't just some random stranger crashing the wedding. This person was someone tied deeply into the story I didn't even realize was still unfolding beneath the surface. And so, standing there in my suit, with my heart pounding like a drumline, the question lingered in the air. Is this really going to be the best day of my life? Or the moment everything started to unravel? Sarah and I had been at this for months, picking flowers, tasting cake, narrowing down playlists that could please a crowd split between salsa lovers and classic rock fans. The venue was this charming little place nestled right in the heart of our hometown, with just enough rustic charm to make you feel cozy but not cramped. It was perfect for what we wanted. A small, intimate gathering with people who mattered most, and hey, maybe enough space for my terrible dance moves later on. Mike, my best friend since forever, was the obvious choice for best man. We had survived awkward first dates, disastrous camping trips, and even that one attempt at starting a band where none of us could play instruments. He was like a brother to me, the kind of guy who could always lighten the mood or crack a joke when things started to get too stressful, which, as any groom will tell you, is basically the whole wedding planning process. Then there was Sarah's family. Most of them were coming, which was great. Her parents were as cheerful and supportive as ever, and aunts and uncles were already making plans to steal me away for embarrassing stories during the reception. But one person was glaringly absent. Josh, Sarah's brother. I had heard stories about him, the usual sibling stuff, but with an extra layer of distance. He hadn't been in touch for years, not since some fallout that no one really wanted to bring up. Sarah barely mentioned him, and when she did, her smile tightened like she was forcing herself to push those memories back where they belonged. I didn't pry. You don't dig into family skeletons right before a wedding, it's basically wedding law. But I could feel the tension like static in the air. It wasn't the kind you talk about over brunch or sneak glances during speeches. It was quieter, more complicated. Like an unopened letter sitting on the kitchen counter that everyone knows is there but no one touches. Despite that, everything seemed to be shaping up well. The guests began to settle in, the flower arrangements added pops of color everywhere, and Sarah was glowing brighter than any string of fairy lights hung across the trellis. Mike kept throwing me these reassuring thumbs up from the sidelines, his usual smirk suggesting that no matter what happened, he had my back. I remember catching Sarah's eye as we lined up behind the curtain, moments before walking down the aisle. Her breath hitched just a little, and for a second I thought maybe the nerves were getting to her like a lot of brides do. But then she squeezed my hand and nodded, somehow stronger than I'd ever seen her. Still, beneath that hopeful veneer, there was this undercurrent of something unspoken. I wanted to ask about it, but right then, we had promises to make and a day to celebrate. Little did I know, that unspoken was about to crash like an unexpected storm. The music started, and as I watched Sarah's steps toward me, I told myself to stay present, to soak in every smile, every whisper, every glance. Because no matter what, this was our day. Right? At least I thought it would be until the moment everything changed. The ceremony was just about to kick off. The soft melodies from the string quartet drifted through the warm spring air, and everyone was settled into their seats, faces full of that expectant kind of joy that only weddings seem to conjure. I was standing there, a little sweaty under my jacket, because honestly, nerves and formal wear don't exactly mix when I saw him. Josh! He strolled up the aisle like he owned the place, which, well, he definitely didn't. The moment felt like the world tilted for a second. The music stumbled, and every smile turned into confusion locked in a weird kind of freeze frame. You could literally see people blink and lean toward each other like, Did that just happen? Sarah's face drained of color so fast it almost looked like a weird party trick. Her eyes locked onto Josh like she was spotting a ghost, or worse, a bomb about to explode in the middle of our carefully crafted day. I wanted to reach out, put a calming hand on her shoulder, but my brain was in this weird loop of, stay calm and what the hell just happened? And then Josh cleared his throat, that smirk still hanging like a badge of I'm here and ready to stir up every bad memory. Great. He glanced around the crowd and it felt like an icy gust blew through the garden despite the sun still shining. I could see Mike force a smile but lean in close enough to whisper something meant to cut the tension. Guess the invite list wasn't quite airtight, huh? I gave him a tight nod, but inside I was scrambling. Sarah was frozen, her hands clenched at her sides as if trying to ground herself. The guests were whispering now, and I swear I heard Aunt Jenny mutter, "Oh no, not this again," like she thought the whole family feud had just been dragged back into daylight. Then Josh spoke, loud enough that even the people at the back caught it. "I'm here because there are things that need sorting out before you say those vows." That hit like a brick. I glanced at Sarah, expecting her to shut it down, to tell him to buzz off and save us all the trouble. But no, she seemed caught between anger and something deeper, pain maybe? She took a deep breath and said, "Josh, this isn't the time, not here." Josh didn't back down. He folded his arms and said, "Too late." "I've been out of your life for years, but today I need to say this. I want to be part of it. Part of your life, part of this family. But I'm not going to pretend everything's fine. We have things to fix." The words hung heavy in the air. I noticed some guests shifting uncomfortably, and Mike's grin disappeared completely. Old family wounds? Brought right into our wedding ceremony? Just perfect. I felt my throat tighten. I glanced at Sarah again. Her eyes were wet now, but she was so still. I thought maybe she was about to shatter right there in front of all these people. Mike stepped forward, probably sensing this was getting way out of hand. "Hey man, maybe this isn't the place. Can't you wait till after the vows? Or at least later tonight?" Josh shook his head, that stubborn set to his jaw I'd only ever seen on Mike when he refused to back down during those teenage arguments about, I don't know, who could eat the spiciest hot wings. "No," Josh snapped. "If I don't do this now, I won't do it at all. Sarah needs to hear this." A hush fell over the crowd again. I wanted to say something, anything, to break the tension, but it was like the air had gone out of the room. I felt like someone had tossed a bucket of ice water over the whole morning's happiness. Sarah finally blinked away a tear and looked Josh dead in the eyes. "You want to be part of my life? Then maybe start by owning up to why you disappeared in the first place." That hit the room like a sucker punch. Josh's smirk faltered. He looked down, then back up, his voice soft but laced with resentment. "I left because I couldn't stand the way I was treated. I was hurt, and no one wanted to listen. But maybe that was my mistake." The crowd was silent now. Even the birds seemed to have paused mid-chirp. And in that pause, I realized this wasn't just some awkward guest crashing a wedding. This was decades of sibling rivalry, hurt feelings, and unspoken apologies all thrown into this moment like an unscripted twist none of us were ready for. Mike broke the silence with a cough and muttered, "Well, that escalated fast, but even his attempt at humor didn't quite land. It was more desperate than funny." Sarah's hands unclenched slowly, and she finally said, "Josh, I don't know if we can fix everything today. But if you want in, it's gotta be real. No games." Josh nodded slowly, almost as if he was expecting her to say no. "I mean it. No more pretending." The tension had shifted but didn't exactly disappear. The guests were exchanging looks. The smiles were gone, replaced by a quiet curiosity. I felt my own heart pounding like a drumline, but this time it wasn't nerves about saying, "I do." It was nerves about what came next. And just like that, the wedding day we thought we knew got turned upside down, in ways I hadn't even imagined. Sarah took a step forward, steadying herself in a way that made me realize she wasn't about to let this day slip through her fingers without fighting for control. The breeze caught her veil, fluttering lightly like a gentle spotlight, and in that moment, everything seemed to slow down, like someone had hit pause on the chaos. She looked around at all the faces, some still wide-eyed with surprise, others holding their breath. Then she turned back to Josh and said quietly but firmly, "If you want to be part of this, it's going to have to be on my terms, not just when you decide to show up." Her voice didn't waver, but you could feel the years of hurt and hope tangled up in those words. Josh nodded, swallowing hard, and for the first time his usual smirk softened. "I get it. I haven't been here before. And I don't expect everything to be perfect overnight, but I'm willing to try." There was a heaviness in the air, but also a strange kind of relief. It wasn't the tidy, picture-perfect resolution everyone dreams of at weddings, but it was real, and I'd take real over perfect any day. Mike leaned in, whispering half-jokingly, "Well, that's about the strangest wedding reception speech I've ever witnessed." I laughed softly, grateful for that lightness, even if the situation still felt like a jigsaw puzzle missing a few pieces. Sarah squeezed my hand, steadying me as if sharing the weight of everything without saying a word. She whispered, "This was unexpected, yeah, but I think we're better for facing it." I nodded. Part of me wanted to sweep everything under the rug and pretend the day had gone exactly as planned. But seeing Sarah stand her ground, opening a door that had been locked tight for too long, that felt like something powerful. Messy, yeah, but powerful. We turned back toward the officiant, and as the ceremony resumed, I felt something change inside me. This wasn't just about two people promising forever. It was about the complicated, imperfect family stories we all carry, and the chance to rewrite the ones we want to keep. Later, at the reception, Josh stayed on. He even laughed a couple of times when Mike told one of his infamous "remember when" stories. It wasn't magic, and it wasn't a fairy tale fix, but it was a beginning. Sarah's parents cautiously welcomed him over, and I caught her sharing a small, genuine smile with her brother. When the night wound down, I found myself sitting outside under the stars with Mike, trying to process everything. "Think we got a shot at this family thing?" I asked. Mike shrugged with that familiar grin. "Well, weddings are weird like that. If it wasn't unpredictable, would it even be a wedding? You just gotta roll with the punches and keep your dance moves ready." I chuckled, thinking of my less than graceful attempts waiting for me on the dance floor. But more than that, I felt grateful for the messiness, the honesty, and the unexpected turns that made our day, well, uniquely ours. I'm still not entirely sure how to feel about everything that happened. Part of me wishes the day had stayed simple. The other part can't shake the idea that maybe, just maybe, those moments of raw truth brought us closer to something real. If I had to guess, I'd say family isn't about flawless moments or perfect reunions. It's about showing up even when the timing's off and being ready to fight for something better. And maybe that's worth more than a picture-perfect wedding day. So, if I were to ask you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Because in that garden of blooming flowers, amidst the chaos and surprise, I learned that some days don't go as planned, and sometimes that's exactly how they're meant to be.